Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda Radhe. Today we are continuing with the story of Sri Lalita Sakhi Dasi, and as we are reading about the saints of Raja, saints of Bengal, we have our own story of our brother Raghunath, who left yesterday to Radhika. So we are also privileged to be surrounded by such nice songs, manjaris. We will continue reading now about Sri Lalita Sakhi Dasi. So we were reading from before that Lalita Sakhi Dasi actually, this is male person, but he was actually in Sakhi Bhava. So by instruction of his Gurudev, Radharaman Charandas Baba, he started to wear cloth of Sakhis, and they gave him name Lalita Dasi. Today we will continue with the story. So in Radharaman Kunja, Radharaman Charandas Baba used to eat the Mahaprasad of Radharaman, while the others took the Mahaprasad brought from Janjapit Mat by Kusum Manjari Dasi. One day, 1 kilo rice was offered to Radharaman. The Mahaprasad was consumed by Baba Mahashaya or Radharaman Charandra and 3 or 4 other persons who happened to arrive at that time. After they had eaten, 4 other persons arrived. Baba Mahashaya asked Lalita Dasi to cook 1 kilo rice for them. Namadev Das went and brought 2 kilos of rice from the house of Kunja Bihari Roy as bhiksha, or from he was begging for rice. Lalita Dasi cooked 1 kilo out of that and served it to those persons after Bhoga was offered to Radharaman. Just after they had finished eating, some other devotees arrived. So Baba Mahashaya again asked Lalita Dasi to cook for them. She cooked the remaining 1 kilo. At this time, the Mahaprasad from Janjapit Mat also arrived. So Babaji Mahashaya asked Lalita Dasi to serve the rice cooked by her together with the Mahaprasad from Janjapit Mat to everyone. After everyone had eaten, Baba Mahashaya asked Kusuma Manjari Dasi and Rasarangini Dasi to eat what remained. Both of them said, Lalita Dasi has not eaten anything. She may also be asked to share. Baba said, do not bother about her. You eat up everything. So they eat up everything. They have eaten everything. When they had eaten, Baba retired for rest. Just after that, a man came from Jenamat with some cilia or rice, wetted, parched, and flattened. Milk, and he brought also milk and sweets. Baba noticed that from his room. He said to Lalita Das, do not offer these things to Radharaman just now. Let him rest. Offer them when he wakes. Just now you keep them in my room. Lalita Dasi understood that Baba Mahashaya had a new idea in mind. She smiled and kept everything in his room. At 4 o'clock, those things were offered to Radharaman. Baba Mahashaya took a bit of Mahaprasad and distributed the rest amongst the devotees, avoiding only Lalita Dasi. Then he looked at her smilingly and said, "Oh, I forgot her. Doesn't matter. Her purpose will be served by the particles that remain in the pots." Accordingly, Lalita Dasi rubbed her finger in the pots, then put in her mouth. So she took just what stayed little in the pot with her fingers. Surprisingly, that alone appeased her appetite and gave her complete satisfaction. A little before dusk, as Baba Mahashaya was going out for Jagannath Darshan, Bhuvana Sahu's son, called Nitai Das, came with puri, meaning sort of bread fried in ghee, that puri. Kachori, so this is bread made from flour and filled with pulses and fried in ghee. This is kachori. That, yeah. Mohan Bhog, some type of pudding, and some other prasad. So he brought different types of prasad. Baba Mahashaya broke away a piece from a puri and without eating it, asked Nitai Das to go and tell Lalita Dasi that it was my Mahaprasad. Nitai Das did accordingly. But Baba Mahashaya had already told Lalita Dasi that if she got any prasad from anywhere, she must not consume it. So he was a prankster. At 9 o'clock, when he returned from the temple, he said to her, "Where is the prasad?" Lalita said, "Why? That was your Adar Amrita. So I ate it all." Babaji said, but it was not my Adar Amrita. But you had yourself conveyed through Nitai Das that was your Adar Amrita or Mahaprasad. Babaji said, "But that was a lie. I had told so in order to test you." Lalita said, "If that was a lie, what I have just said is also a lie." She brought the tal containing puri, kachori, and mohan bhog and placed it before Baba Mahashaya. So she didn't eat anything. So Baba Mahashaya was surprised and pleased. He took a small part of the prasad and asked Lalita Dasi to take the rest. In 1905, Babaji Mahashaya left the body to join Nitya Lila, or the eternal Lila of Radha Krishna. Before leaving the body, he had purchased a bagan body, or house with a garden, in which he had installed the Shri Vigraha of Radhakant, or the form of Radhakant deity. His samadhi exists there. It was therefore called Samaj Badi after the disappearance of Baba Maharaj. Lalita Dasi began to live in Samaj Badi and do the seva of Shri Radhakant. She began the seva of Radhakanta according to Ashtakalya Lila, which continues even now. Since the arrival of Lalita Das, Navadvip, also disciple of Radharaman Charan Dasdeva, began to pulsate with new life. Oh, sorry, because we have Navadvip the person, and this is Navadvip the place, so I mix up. So since the arrival of Lalita Das, Navadvip, the place, Navadvip, began to pulsate with new life. new current of bhakti bhava that emanates from her, from Lalita Dasi. Her fame as a Siddha Mahatma spread far and wide. The people of Navadvip called her Sakhi Ma. Many people heard about her extraordinary learning, deep knowledge of the Shastras, and capacity to solve all kinds of problems relating to spiritual life, and all came to her for guidance. Many came out of curiosity to see how a Pandita of her stature lived in the disguise of a woman. They were all sold out to her on account of her powerful personality, bhakti bhava, and sweet and loving behavior. But once came to Navadvip Swami Vishwananda, a very influential, self-conceited, and fearsome sort of person. He had, by his influence, dethroned the Mahanta of Tarakeshwara because he lived luxuriously, which was against the ideal of a Mahanta. He heard that the Mahanta of Samajbadi was a Mahatma who lived in the disguise of a woman, and he became wild with rage. He went to Samajbadi with 5 or 6 of his followers. At that time, Lalita Dasi was doing bhajana at the roof of her kuti, or place, house. Yeah. Vishwananda climbed the roof with his men. Lalita Dasi made obeisance to him, but Vishwananda said in anger, "Why do you live in disguise to seduce women? Why do you live in disguise to seduce women? You will not be able to cheat anymore. Don't you know I am Vishwananda? Throw away your clothes and everything and put on the dress of a sadhu." Lalita Dasi did not say anything. She stood with her head cast downwards, saying, "Jai Guru, Jai Guru." Vishwananda stepped forward and shouted in anger, "Don't you hear? Take off this cloth, or I shall pull them out." Lalita Dasi stepped backwards and kept saying, "Jai Guru, Jai Guru." The news had already spread in Navadvip that Vishwananda would try to strip Lalita Dasi naked and dishonor her. The people of Navadvip could never tolerate this. They were wild with anger. Hazari Babu, the inspector in charge of the police station in Navadvip, also came to know about this. He rushed to Samajbadi with 8 of his policemen. In Samajbadi, as Vishwananda was advancing towards Lalita Das, she was shrinking backwards. She was now standing on the edge of the roof with determination to commit suicide by jumping down if he touched her, and thus to protect her honor and bhava. Just then, Vishwananda heard the sound of the boots of the policemen climbing the stairs of the roof and began to tremble with fear. Hazari Babu, or the main police chief of the police, rushed up to him. He held a revolver in one hand and caught hold of Vishwananda with the other and said, "You have come to dishonor Sakhi Ma. What courage!" Turning to his men, he said, "Take him to the police station." So they took him down the stairs. Lalita Dasi also came down. So she called Hazari Babu and said, "Hazari Dada," or brother, "if you have any regard for me, please set him free." because he is our guest. It is our duty to honor the guest. Lalita Dasi took Vishwananda to the veranda or the balcony of her kuti and insisted on his taking some refreshments. He took refreshments while Lalita Dasi sat by his side, fanning him. In the meantime, hundreds of people had gathered with lathis or staffs in their hands and were waiting for Vishwananda to come out. They were surprised to see Sakhi Ma entertaining and serving him. They began to say to one another, "The villain is enjoying sandesh and rasagulas and taking service from Sakhi Ma. Let him come out. Then we shall serve him to our heart's content." He had come to strip Sakhi Ma of her dress. We shall strip him of his skin. Oh. So they're so much angry. So seeing that the people of Navadvip had gone wild in anger, Lalita Dasi said to Hazari Babu prayerfully, "Hazari Dada, you have to do me one more favor. Let your men take Vishwananda to the railway station and see him off. Otherwise, I do not know what Navadvivasis will do to him." Hazari Babu obeyed, and Vishwananda breathed a sigh of relief. So he was scared so much. Wow, we can actually see beauty in this, how he was a heavy guy and wanted to do some bad thing to Lalita Dasi. But after all, she accepted him as a guest and even served him. How this thing is beautiful, actually. How, if we think how this behavior can change hearts. Sometimes we can become angry on someone. And this one time I heard that usually anger, fear, and similar things are just one type of call for help. And if we answer in kind, meaning same way, if we answer like with fear or anger, we are just building that fire. But if we answer with love, love is like water on fire. And this fire becomes smaller and smaller until it finally disappears. And this is Vaishnava, actually. We are seeing through these examples how Vaishnavas, they don't hold grudges. They respect everyone. So this is something to take into our hearts and to think, how are we acting towards other Vaishnavas or other people generally? So everyone appreciated the tolerance of Lalita Sakhi. But the people of Navadvip felt disappointed because they could not serve the distinguished guest as they wanted. Lalita Dasi used to deliver discourses or lessons in the evening relating to Madhura Lila of Radha Krishna. While doing so, she used to be so transported, like so much into it, that it appeared as if she was experiencing the Lila directly. Radha Krishna themselves felt so much attracted by her discourses that they came regularly to listen to them without becoming visible to the other listeners. But one day, their presence at that time became known by their footprints, which they had left. That day, while Lalita Dasi was delivering the lecture in the veranda before her house, she had to go into the house for a while on account of some work. When she came out, she saw two small footprints on an asana with black cover she used to spread for Radha Krishna to sit during the lesson. Everyone was surprised to see the footprints. For a long time, people used to come to see the footprints. To keep them secure, Lalita Dasi cut the upper portion of the cover and put it inside a glass frame. But slowly, the footprints disappeared. Only the frame remained. How beautiful. Everywhere where actually she was giving their lesson, there is a special place where Radha and Krishna can come also and listen to the lesson. Wow, how nice. And personal, so beautiful. Lalita Dasi used to celebrate the Julan, Rasa, and Holy Leelas with great bhava and elation. With great bhava. At that time, she used to sing songs composed by herself with such bhava that the audience felt transported into the celestial land of Leela itself. She published Sri Surat Katamrita and Sangita Madhava along with her Bengali translation and commentary. She is also the writer of Charita Shuddha, the biography of Sri Radharaman Charandas Deva, in 6 volumes in Bengali, though her name as the author does not appear on the book. This is the biggest book about Radharaman Charandas Deva, and in the book, The Life of Love, O.B.L. Kapoor tried to write it in one book, these whole 6 volumes that are in Bengali. Lalita Dasi passed away to join the Leela of Radha Krishna in 1946. So, very nice person is Lalita Dasi. I think second. Yeah. Okay. So this is one story, and because we still have time, we can start with the next story from the book, which is about Ramadas Babaji. So Sri Ramadas Babaji he was born in 1875 in village Nilatuni of district Faridpur in East Bengal, today Bangladesh. His father, Durga Charana Babu, was an excise inspector. He was called Radhika Ranjana by his parents. So Ramadas Babaji was called Radhika Ranjana by his parents. Even in his childhood, Radhika Ranjana manifested the qualities of a Mahapurusha. He could not tolerate the sight of suffering, even in animals. Once he became unconscious to see a goat being sacrificed before goddess Kali. In that state, he cried, "Ma, do not carry him away. He is weeping." He could not see the birds inside a cage. He went to the houses of the neighbors having birds in cages and quietly released them. There was no end to his joy when he saw them flying freely. He was a born singer. He had a sweet voice and wonderful memory. After seeing a dramatic performance, he could surprise people by repeating all its songs in exactly the same tone in which they were sung. He was especially fond of Namakirtana. Namakirtana was his play as well as tonic for him. He could hardly live without it. He collected the boys of his age, usually of a low class, and performed kirtana with them. His parents scolded him for this, but without any effect. They thought that the environment of the village was harmful to him and that he might improve if he was sent to the city. So they sent him to Faridpur and got him admitted into the famous Banga Hitaisi school of Faridpur. The environment of Faridpur proven even more congenial to him. Here he found friends like Sundanva Mitra and Bakula Vishwas, who were equally interested in Kirtana and grew like him to be great saints. During those days, the so-called Vaishnavas of the Bau Sampradaya were prominent in Bengal. They went begging from door to door, sang in an attractive manner, and fulfilled their nefarious designs by means of mantras and tantric activities. When a Baul came and sang at Radhika's door, he used to get so much absorbed in the song that he followed him for some distance. Once a Baul hypnotized him and took him to his akada, his place where he was hiding. In the state of hypnosis, he could not know where he was going and why. Next morning, when he came to his own, he was scared to see a number of beggars, both men and women, around him, and he could see their mysterious activities. He began to weep. The chief of Bauls understood that Radhika belonged to a respectable family, and the police, who might already be going about in search of him, might make a raid on them. He therefore asked the man who had brought him to go and leave him somewhere away from his home. The man again hypnotized him and left him at a place far away from his house. When he regained consciousness, he saw his parents and other relatives sitting around him in deep anxiety. No one said anything to Radhika at that time. But Durgacharana Babu became anxious about his future. He apprehended that his passion for Harinama might lead to disaster. His brother-in-law, Sri Bharatachandra Sen, used to say, "If you send Radhika to live with me in Niloki, I would soon drive away the ghost of Harinama that has taken possession of him." So he sent Radhika with him to Niloki. In Niloki, Radhika could not chant Harinam or sing as long as his maternal uncle was at home. He sang when he was out or satisfied his cravings for kirtana by going to some solitary place and singing, or by participating in the sankirtana of sadhus in some ashrama. But this could not go on for long. Sen Mahashaya came to know about this. He stopped Radhika's going out of the house and gave him so much home task that he hardly found any time to sing. He asked him every day to commit to memory certain sutras of Sanskrit grammar and repeat them in his presence in the evening. Poor Radhika spent all his time memorizing the sutras. The waves of Harinama sometimes rose in his mind. He suppressed them. But sometimes, in spite of him, the waves of Bhava, bursting forth like a tide, swept him away into the deep sea and compelled him to sing, unmindful of the consequence. On one such occasion, while memorizing the sutras, he began to sing with great emotion a song of which the plaint was that he lived in a heartless world and there was none to whom he could open his heart and feel relieved. So the theme of the song was that he lived in a heartless world and there was no one to whom he could open his heart and feel relieved. As he was singing, his uncle was about to enter the house. He stood at the door to hear what he was singing. The tone of the song expressed the pain of Radhika's heart and an attitude of indifference towards one who did not want that he should sing. This was too much for Sen Mahashaya to bear. He rushed in, looked at Radhika like a hawk looking for its prey, bound him to a kadamba tree in his courtyard, and began to whip him right and left with a stick. Radhika's aunt somehow rescued him from the hands of his brutish uncle. But from that day, Sen Mahashaya pledged, like Hiranyakashipu, to rid Radhika of his habit of singing Harinama. He sometimes kept him bound to the tree for all day, sometimes did not give him food to eat for a number of days, and sometimes, in winter, made him stand in cold water for hours. Radhika suffered it all patiently, like Prahlad, but did not give up Harinama. Ultimately, Radhika's endurance, his faith in Harinama, and the passionate and painful tone of his kirtanas touched the heart of Sen Mahashaya, his uncle. His attitude began to change. On one occasion, Radhika had to go to Faridpur, from where he did not return. He was again admitted into the Banga Hitachi school. So we can see here Radhika was just a boy. So Radhika was 8 years old when he met Jagat Bandhu Prabhu. In one stories before, we were reading about Jagat Bandhu. No? Jagat Bandhu, you know who is Jagat Bandhu? We read actually today about Jagat Bandhu. This is Lalita Dasi. Yeah? I think Jagat Bandhu was... No, okay, I mixed. Jagat Bandhu was separate person. Similar names, so I mixed. Okay. So Jagat Bandhu was at that time 13 years old, but he had already become famous as an ordinarily great Mahapurusha. Radhika surrendered himself completely to him and began to do sadhana bhajana under his guidance. His studies also continued. In the Chakravriti examination, he passed in first division. He was then admitted into a Tola, or Sanskrit school, for studying Mugdha Bodha Vyakarana. But he could not live for a second without Bandhu, Jagat Bandhu. Bandhu also could not live without him. Radhika, instead of going to the school, went to Bandhu's house in Brahmanakand. At the time, the Tola or school was opened and remained with him till the time it was closed. He spent all the time in Kirtana and talks about Krishna with him, with Jagat Bandhu. A special feature of Bandhu's personality was that he became overwhelmed with bhava as soon as he heard the name of Radha. Therefore, instead of calling Radhika as Radhika, he called him Sarika. Sarika means a small female bird of the parrot species, which has a sweet voice. So he called him Sarika not to enter, not to be overwhelmed with bhava when they talked. Once he said to him, Sarika, look, every morning after bath, you take a chatak or 60 milliliters of juice of the leaves of parabala and 1 tola cow dung. Tola is 11.66 grams. So Radhika from that time started taking them. What he said, this juice of leaves of parabala and 1 tola cow. In 1891, when Radhika was 15 years old, an important episode took place. The Buno and Santal tribes of Faridpur district had been neglected and ill-treated by Hindus for a long time, in spite of the fact they were Hindus as well. The Christian missionaries took advantage of this. Mr. Mead, a Christian priest, tried to convert them into Christianity. With the help of Mr. Herbert, the district magistrate, he fixed a date for their baptism. No one had the courage to stand up against the British government and prevent this. But Jagat Bandhu and Radhika could not tolerate it. They determined to set at naught all efforts of Mr. Mead and Mr. Herbert in this connection. On the day on which baptism was to be done, a huge crowd gathered before the house of Jagat Bandhu at his call with mridangas, karatals, conch shells, bells, and flags, etc., to wage a Sankirtan war against the Christians. The Sankirtan army, divided into 7 groups, marched performing Sankirtana through the city to the locality where the Bunos and the Santals lived. As the army marched, the number of soldiers increased. This army, Sankirtan army. The teachers and the students who were going to school, the men and women who had come out of their homes to make purchases in the market, and the shopkeepers who were going to open their shops forgot everything and joined the army. The sound of 16 mridangas and a large number of karatals, mixed with the haribol sound of innumerable throats, rent the sky. The main singer in Kirtana was Radhika. Tears, tremor, and other sattvika bhavas, or the symptoms, adorned his body as he went singing and dancing. Others were also overwhelmed with bhava and were singing and dancing with him. Jagat Bandhu was always with him. When he noticed that he was so overwhelmed with bhava that he ran the risk of becoming unconscious and falling down, he followed him closely with both of his hands spread out to protect him. As soon as the Sankirtan procession reached the locality of the Bunos, they were surprised beyond limit to hear the sky-rending sound of Sankirtan. They were automatically drawn to it, just as iron is automatically drawn by magnet, and began to sing and dance with others. Jagat Bandhu heartily embraced their leader Rajanipash. His other companions embraced the other Bunos, and Rajanipas was their leader. Rajanipas was so overwhelmed with bhava on account of the loving embrace of Jagadbandhu that he fell unconscious on the ground. When he regained consciousness, he found out that he was completely sold out to him. All his companions had the similar feelings. They had begun to curse themselves for entertaining the thought of conversion into Christianity. The fire of penitence blazed in their hearts. The Christian missionaries were watching the scene with dismay and disappointment. So I think maybe we can stop here because it's already time. So next time we'll continue from this part. I hope all of you. Mahabala is telling me just 2 sentences more, so that we finish totally this part. After this episode, Jagat Bandhu and Radhika became famous as the 2 spiritual dignitaries of Faridpur. But in the house of Radhika, it caused an unprecedented upheaval. His people began to think that he had gone completely out of their hands and had started dancing openly on the streets with Jagat Bandhu. He must be sent somewhere outside of Faridpur so that he was deprived of the company of Jagat Bandhu. So they sent him to Barishal to live with his elder brother Vishwara Babu and study Sanskrit in a school. So we will stop here. Now, this is, the story continues, but we can see how much his family was against him being a Vaishnava, and were doing everything to separate him from any Vaishnava or any practice. Even his uncle was so much heavy, as we read. But as we know, Radha and Krishna always have some plan. And this we will find out in the next episode. I hope you liked the story till now. And we will continue next Wednesday. Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda.